I stood in the dim hallway outside my sister's apartment, peeling off her third eviction notice that month, the tape snapping like it was mocking me. Behind me, my 3 kids asked why we didn't live in our big house anymore, and I didn't have an answer clean enough for their ears. The paper came off in one slow, irritated rip, the glue clinging to the door like it wanted to embarrass her one last time. I balled it up and shoved it into my jacket pocket. The hallway smelled like old carpet and microwave dinners, and for a moment I just stood there, hand against the wood, feeling the grain dig into my palm. My sister wasn't home. She never was on Tuesday nights, but she told us we could crash here, again until things settled, as if things like this ever settled without someone forcing them to. My kids waited behind me, small shadows in an orange hallway light that flickered every few seconds. Aiden asked the same question he'd been asking for months. "Dad, when are we going back home?" Emma held a stuffed unicorn that had survived 4 moves, 2 storage units, and a custody battle I hadn't even started yet. Olivia didn't say anything. She just watched me like she already knew the truth but wanted me to deny it. I opened the door and motioned them in. "We'll figure it out," I said. The words tasted like metal. Inside, the living room was a patchwork of borrowed furniture and the scent of vanilla candles my sister hoarded from discount bins. Our clothes were in plastic bins stacked against the wall. My son's soccer cleats were hanging out of a grocery bag. My daughter's drawings were taped crookedly across a closet door. This wasn't a home. It was a holding pattern, a waiting room for the life I used to have. 6 months ago, I was Mark Patterson, husband, father, provider. A man with a mortgage in Naperville, a 2-story house with a brick front and a yard big enough for Saturday soccer. I had a grill, a workshop, a driveway full of chalk art, and neighbors who waved like we were all doing just fine. 6 months ago, I was thriving. Now I was the guy couch surfing with 3 kids, rotating between my sister's place, my buddy Dave's basement, and short-term rentals that smelled like bleach and loneliness. Rachel, my ex-wife, told anyone who'd listen that I was unstable, irresponsible, unreliable. She painted herself as the victim, the mother holding things together while I spiraled. I didn't correct her, not because she was right, hell no, but because arguing with a woman mid-self-justification spiral is like reasoning with a bonfire. It only burns hotter the more oxygen you give it. What she never told people was the sentence that started this collapse. "For words," said with a smirk, "you can't divorce me." She said it like she was reading a law engraved for her benefit, like she believed motherhood was a shield, and I was the idiot swinging a stick at a fortress. That sentence changed the way she looked at me. It turned every conversation into a threat, every disagreement into a power play, every compromise into a weakness she could leverage. The woman I'd built a whole damn life with had decided she was untouchable. That's when the fault lines started forming. Not under the house, under us. And by the time I realized how deep it ran, everything had already cracked. The house, the routine, the finances, the marriage, the version of myself I'd built for 15 years. All fractured in silence until the whole structure collapsed in one loud public implosion. The kids settled onto the pull-out couch. Aiden grabbed the remote. Emma organized her stuffed animals. Olivia curled against me like she always did when she felt the world tilting. I wrapped an arm around her, eyes fixed on the eviction notice burning in my pocket. Rock bottom doesn't announce itself. It waits for you. And tonight it felt patient. 15 years ago, I walked into a marketing firm in downtown Chicago with a cheap suit and a head full of goals, and I met Rachel Carson. Sharp smile, fast wit, dangerous charm. What I didn't know then was that the future she painted for us was only real as long as it served her. I was 27, hungry, and built from the kind of work ethic you don't brag about, you just live. I was the guy who remembered birthdays, stayed up late to fix other people's slides, ironed my shirts every morning, and kept a backup tie on my desk because looking put together was part of the job. Rachel showed up on her first day like she'd already been promoted twice. She was magnetic in a way that made the office feel smaller when she walked into a room. She introduced herself with that confident, almost playful smile. "I'm Rachel. Try not to slow me down." I laughed, thinking it was a joke. Later I'd realize it was a warning. Back then, though, she was fired in the best way. Quick thinker. Killer instincts. She could pitch a client, calm a room, or charm a boardroom without losing a beat. I was focused, disciplined, and deliberate. Together we made sense, her spark, my grind. We started dating after a few months. She loved the way I worked, the way I thought. She said I made her feel grounded. I liked the way she saw possibility everywhere, even in me. I hadn't grown up with much, so building something with someone felt like stepping into a life I'd only imagined from the outside. 2 years later, we married in a small church near Lake Michigan. Simple ceremony. Close friends. My mother was crying in the front row like she was watching the end of a movie she'd always hoped for. Life moved fast after that. We bought our house in Naperville. 3 bedrooms, good school district, a yard big enough for a dog we never ended up getting. We had Aiden first. I remember holding him in the hospital, Rachel asleep, and thinking, this is what purpose feels like. Emma came 2 years later. Olivia soon after. I worked hard, always, not because anyone demanded it, but because providing was the closest thing I had to religion. Rachel stayed home by choice. She told everyone she loved it. Being with the kids, making a house feel like a home, being the anchor while I chased career milestones. Back then, it felt like teamwork. I'd walk in at 6:30, tired but proud, and she'd meet me at the door with the baby on her hip and dinner half prepped. We'd talk about our days, mine full of clients and deadlines, hers full of milestones and naps. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Mutual sacrifice, mutual trust. We built our savings, took vacations, hosted barbecues. I coached Aiden's first soccer team even though I barely knew the rules. I read bedtime stories, fixed toys, shoveled driveways, made weekend pancakes. Rachel told her friends I was a good man. And when she said it, she meant it. Or I thought she did. I believed in our future. Believed in her. Believed that if you worked hard enough and loved hard enough, things stayed solid. For a long time, they did. Those early years were the kind you look back on and think, yeah, that's when things made sense. That's when we were still us. But foundations don't fail overnight. They crack quietly, silently, just enough for air to creep in. I didn't know it then, but the woman I married, the woman who told me she loved the life we were building, was already starting to want something else. Something more. Or maybe something easier. I just didn't see it. Not yet. Year 10 didn't crash in like a storm. It slid in quietly, rearranging the air between us. One day Rachel looked at me like a teammate, and the next she looked at me like an obstacle. It didn't happen overnight. Nothing real ever does. But year 10, that was when the temperature in the house changed. Not the thermostat, the atmosphere. The small things first. Gratitude turning into commentary. Jokes turning into jabs. Silence turning into a statement. I was still grinding. Promotions, bigger accounts, longer hours. I wasn't chasing glory. I was feeding 5 mouths, paying for 3 futures, building a life most men would kill to secure. I walked in the door every night with the same routine. Kiss the kids, wash up, help with homework, sit down for dinner. I thought I was doing everything right. Rachel didn't see it that way anymore. Her comments started small. I wish you were home more. The kids need you. I need you. I heard them. I tried to adjust. But the world doesn't stop spinning because someone wants more of you from the couch. Then came the bitterness, soft at first, like she was testing its weight. It must be nice to get dressed and talk to adults. I'm stuck here all day. You don't understand what I deal with. I told her she could go back to work if she wanted. I supported it, encouraged it. She shot it down every time. No, the kids need me here. But somehow it was also my fault she was home. I remember coming home one night around 7:45. Late but not crisis late. The house was quiet. Kids already in bed. Rachel sitting at the table with a glass of wine, staring at her phone like it owed her money. She didn't look up when I walked in. You didn't text, she said. I was in back-to-back meetings. I thought you knew. That's the problem. You always think I know. Her voice didn't rise, but the edge was new. It wasn't frustration. It was contempt wrapped in silk. I sat down across from her. What's going on? She finally looked up, eyes glossy with a mixture of exhaustion and something sharper. You don't see me anymore, Mark. I see you every day. No, she said. You see what you want to see. The stay-at-home wife. The mom. The helper. But you don't see me. It was the first time she said it. It wouldn't be the last. I tried to understand. I really did. I suggested date nights, weekends away, couples counseling, bringing in help with the kids. Everything was met with reluctance or irritation. It wasn't the solution she wanted. It was validation without change, without responsibility, without effort. Her jokes got meaner. Nice you could finally join us. It must be tough being the hero. I should start sending you invoices for all the stuff I do here. The woman who once bragged about how hard I worked now threw it at me like a flaw. The bedroom changed too. Not overnight, but gradually. Touch became an obligation. Kisses became checkpoints. Intimacy became strategy. Hers, not mine. I kept trying. I brought flowers, planned dinners, took more days off, came home earlier. None of it hit the mark. Her resentment simmered beneath everything. It wasn't about the job. It wasn't about housework. It wasn't even about time. It was about a feeling she couldn't articulate. So she weaponized the man closest to her. Looking back, I see it clearly. She had started measuring herself against a version of her life she thought she deserved. And somewhere in that calculation, I became the reason she wasn't living it. I didn't know what was coming. I just felt the distance growing, inch by inch, argument by argument, silence by silence. Resentment is quiet until it's not. And by the time it speaks, it's already decided the outcome. That year was the beginning of the end. I just hadn't seen the end yet. The affair didn't surprise me. The signs were there, blinking like warning lights. What shocked me was how confidently she admitted it, like she believed I was powerless to do anything but take it. The first real clue came on a Tuesday. Buried in a stack of digital credit card charges I checked out of habit. 2 hotels stay downtown. A lingerie purchase from a shop Rachel never set foot in with me. A bar tab at a place she once called too loud. I stared at the screen long enough for my coffee to go cold. I didn't jump to conclusions. Men like me don't deal in impulse, we deal in facts. So I checked the dates, times, patterns, timestamps that didn't line up with soccer practice or PTA meetings, or the errands she claimed were taking longer than expected. The numbers didn't lie. They never do. A week later, I found the red lace lingerie stuffed behind a stack of her sweaters. Never worn in our house, never shown to me. I held it for maybe half a second. Not with heartbreak. With recognition. Confirmation. Still, I stayed calm. I didn't confront her with rage. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even raise my voice. I waited. The night it came to a head, she walked in at 11:52 p.m., smelling like flavored vodka and hotel hallway perfume. I was sitting at the kitchen table, the one we bought after our 3rd kid because the old one felt too small for a growing family. I didn't ask where she'd been. I already knew. She dropped her purse, kicked off her heels, and looked at me like I was an inconvenience in her kitchen. What? She said. I slid the credit card statement across the table. Didn't speak. She glanced at it, then at me and laughed. Actually, I laughed. You went through my statements? I managed the finances, I said. I always have. She rolled her eyes. You're being dramatic. Are you having an affair, Rachel? Silence cracked the room in half. Then she leaned back against the counter and crossed her arms like she was daring me to react. So what if I am? Just like that. No guilt. No fear. Just arrogance dressed as honesty. I felt something inside me shift. Not break, not collapse, shift. Like gears locking into a new position. How long? I asked. She shrugged. Does it matter? It does to me. Fine. A few months. Maybe more. His name is Grant. He actually listens to me. She tilted her chin up. Unlike you. I stayed still, breathing even, hands flat on the table. Why are you telling me like this? Because, she said, stepping closer. You can't divorce me. I looked her straight in the eye. What makes you think that? She smiled, a sharp, satisfied, poisonous thing. Because I'm the mother. Because I stayed home with the kids. Because I know how this works. Mothers always win. Always. She tapped her wine-stained nail against the table like she was signing a contract. You'd lose the house, the kids, everything. I take it all. So don't bother pretending you have options. That wasn't confidence. That was certainty built on ignorance. Then she pushed further, cruel just to hear the echo. Grant thinks it's hilarious you haven't figured it out yet. He says you're too predictable to see what's right in front of you. I didn't say a word, which only made her angrier. She grabbed my arm, nails digging in. Say something. No. She slapped me, hard enough that my ear rang. I didn't react, just looked at her. Calm, controlled. She grabbed a second glass of wine, downed it like water and started rambling, ranting really about everything she'd ever resented, every excuse she'd built into a worldview where she was a martyr and I was a machine built for her benefit. I recorded it, not out of pettiness, out of necessity. She was drunk, reckless, and sloppy with the truth. She admitted the timeline, the hotels, the gifts, the lies. She bragged about Grant. She talked about how invincible she felt because no court would take a mother from her children. She said everything I needed to hear. Somewhere in that storm, something in me hardened. Not hatred, not heartbreak, clarity. She wasn't untouchable. She was unprepared. When she finally stumbled upstairs and passed out across the bed without even taking off her makeup, I stood in the doorway and looked at the woman I thought I knew. I didn't feel broken. I felt awake. That night didn't end my marriage. It ended the illusion that it was still a marriage at all. And for the first time in a long time, I started thinking strategically because her arrogance wasn't the threat. It was an opportunity. 60 days passed after Rachel's confession, and I didn't raise my voice once. While she flaunted her affair like it was leverage, I was building a record she never saw coming. The morning after the confession, I didn't confront her. I didn't pack bags. I didn't demand explanations. I went to work on time, wore the same crisp shirt, shook the same hands, and acted like nothing in my world had shifted. That was step one, control the surface. Family court doesn't reward theatrics. It rewards consistency. So that's what I became, consistent to the point of cold precision. I attended everything, every soccer practice, every school meeting, every doctor's appointment, every bedtime routine. Not because I needed proof I was a good father, but because I already was. I just needed documentation. I kept receipts, saved texts, logged hours, tracked pickups and drop-offs, noted every night she didn't come home. I hired a part-time nanny, not to replace her, but to ensure continuity when Rachel started disappearing more often. A good nanny with a clean record and a knack for details. She became a quiet witness to the household reality. Step 2. Stabilize the environment. I rented a small 2-bedroom a few blocks from the kids' school. Not glamorous, not big, but reliable. A judge doesn't care about granite countertops. They care about stability. My attorney helped me set up a separate account, clean budgeting, and a paper trail proving financial responsibility. Then came the forensic accountant. That was step 3, follow the money. Fares aren't free. Hotel stays, gifts, meals, every dollar spent on the side is dissipation of marital assets. Courts care about that. They care a lot. The accountant cataloged every charge that didn't match our life. The red lingerie, the boutique charges, the nights she claimed to be at girls' dinners. Meanwhile, Rachel acted like she was invincible. She'd waltz into the house after midnight wearing the same smug smile. Humming like this was all some romantic subplot in a show where she was the misunderstood lead. She bragged about Grant. Loud enough for me to hear, quiet enough to pretend she wasn't doing it on purpose. Grant says I look happier, she'd say while scrolling her phone. Or, it's nice being appreciated for once. She thought it bothered me. Didn't. Not anymore. What caught my attention was how sloppy she got. Posting pictures at bars when she said she was at her mom's. Coming home drunk. Forgetting to pick up the kids from school twice. Leaving the girls' backpacks in the car overnight because she was rushing to get ready for dinner with him. Her arrogance wasn't noise, it was evidence. I became quiet, strategic, unshakable. Anger is loud. Preparation is silent. I met with my lawyer every week, reviewed everything, built a timeline cleaner than any lie she could twist. I kept my tone level in every text. No accusation, no emotion, just clarity. Judges love clarity. Rachel, meanwhile, thought I was defeated. She mistook silence for surrender. She believed every late night and every smirk strengthened her position. She once said, "You know this won't change anything, right? Courts favor moms." I remember replying calmly, "Courts favor stability." She laughed like she thought I was bluffing. She didn't understand. The game wasn't emotional anymore. It was procedural, documented, methodical. Those 60 days weren't about revenge. They were about building a foundation under the life she was actively burning down. When my attorney finally said, "You're ready," I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Not triumph, not fear, just certainty. Rachel thought the affair would make her powerful. But power isn't noise. Power is proof. And I was ready to show mine. The custody evaluation didn't scare me. I knew who I was as a father. What I didn't expect was how fast Rachel's facade would crumble once someone impartial started taking notes. The evaluator's office smelled like old books and neutral carpet. Walls covered in child development charts, framed certificates, and the kind of calming artwork people hang up when they expect arguments to walk through their door. She shook my hand firmly. "Mark, thanks for being on time." I nodded. "It's important." I didn't dress up, didn't play a part, just showed up the way I always did. Clean shirt, steady eyes, the same quiet focus I brought to everything that mattered. She asked about routines, school involvement, discipline, emotional support, household structure. I answered directly. No excuses, no speeches. When she spoke to the kids, I waited outside. I heard Emma's soft voice, Olivia's tiny giggles, Aiden's nervous pauses. Later, the evaluator told me the same thing almost every teacher and doctor had said for years. "Your children feel safe with you, consistent, grounded." I didn't smile. I didn't need to. Rachel's interview was different. The evaluator scheduled us separate times, but I saw Rachel walk in, hair perfectly curled, makeup layered heavy, confidence pushed so far forward it looked unstable. She greeted the evaluator with a bright smile, the one she used for Instagram photos and PDA introductions. The evaluator wasn't impressed. Rachel talked too much, explained too hard, defended things no one asked her to defend, blamed stress, blamed me, blamed motherhood, blamed for being unseen. Every answer felt like she was trying to win something instead of telling something. Evaluators don't like that. They don't need a performance, they need truth. Later, my attorney told me, "She came off reactive. You came off consistent. That matters more than people think." But the real fracture didn't show until the kids spoke about her. They told the evaluator about the nights she didn't come home. In the mornings she slept through alarms. The dinners were eaten in the car while she rushed to meet a friend. The weekends where I picked up extra time without complaint. Kids don't lie about emotional patterns. They don't know how to. Their honesty is simple and devastating. What shook Rachel wasn't the interview. It was what happened next. The evaluator requested a joint home visit. When she showed up at the house, toys were scattered across the living room, dishes in the sink, Rachel in leggings and a sweatshirt claiming she wasn't expecting company. Grant's jacket was on the back of the couch. That was the first sign he was slipping. A week later, the evaluator interviewed him too. Grant walked in like a man dragged into a mess he didn't sign up for. Confidence drained. Shirt wrinkled. "My eyes are tired." He tried to sound supportive. He tried to sound invested. He tried to sound like a future stepdad instead of a temporary adrenaline rush. But when the evaluator asked, "What is your relationship with the children?" he hesitated. Then he said the worst possible thing. I'm not really involved." That sentence detonated the image Rachel had tried to build. A few days after his interview, he bailed. Not with drama. Just a simple truth men like him always reach when real pressure shows up. He didn't want to be part of this. He told Rachel it was too much. Told her he wasn't ready to be a father figure. Told her he didn't want his name tied to a custody case. He left quietly, packed his things, blocked her on half the platforms, vanished. Her future evaporated overnight. I didn't gloat. I didn't mock. I didn't even feel victorious. Watching her sit in her car outside the house, crying into her hands, I felt something else entirely. Pity. Not for what she'd done, but for how utterly unprepared she was for consequences. She had built an entire identity on the assumption she couldn't lose. And when the evaluator stripped everything down to facts, there was nowhere left for her to hide. Character isn't what you show when you're comfortable. It's what leaks out when someone is judging you without bias. And in that pressure, Rachel revealed everything. The morning of the final hearing, I didn't feel fear. I felt finality. Rachel walked in trembling. I walked in ready. Courtrooms don't look dramatic in real life. They're beige, quiet, and colder than they should be. The kind of place built for truth, not comfort. I sat beside my attorney, hands folded, breathing evenly. Rachel sat across the aisle, shoulders hunched, makeup heavier than usual, eyes red from a night she didn't sleep. When the judge entered, everything went silent except the shuffling of papers and the scratching of pens. This wasn't TV. No monologues, no shouting, no dramatic cross-examinations, just evidence. My attorney laid out the record we'd built piece by piece. Time logs, attendance sheets, doctor appointments, school events, financial records, forensic accounting reports, the dissipation chart showing every dollar she'd spent on Grant, the nights she didn't come home, the nanny's statement, the stable rental, the texts where I stayed calm while Rachel escalated, and the recording played in small, damning segments, where she admitted the affair, the timeline, the arrogance, the belief she was untouchable. The judge didn't react. Judges rarely do. They just absorb. Rachel's attorney tried to salvage her image. Stress, loneliness, marital strain, feeling unseen. But intentions don't win courtrooms. Patterns do. And her patterns were chaos. The judge asked her 3 questions that changed everything. Where were you on the nights you failed to return home? Why were the children late to school 8 times during the evaluation period? What is your current living situation and plan for stability? Rachel's answers spiraled. Not loud, just messy. I needed space. I overslept those mornings. I'm staying with my sister for now, but it's temporary. I didn't think it was a big deal. I didn't know Grant's involvement mattered. Every word dug her deeper. Then the judge turned to me. Mr. Patterson, what is your current parenting routine? I answered in one steady breath. Consistent, documented, reliable. That was it. No speech, no emotion, just truth. My kids were brought into the conversation through reports, soft voices captured in professional summaries. Aiden said he felt safe at Dad's. Emma said she didn't know when Mom would be home. Olivia says she likes when Daddy picks her up because he never forgets. The evaluator's recommendation was clear. Primary custody to the parent providing stability. When the judge began reading the final ruling, the air in the room tightened. Primary residential custody, Mark Patterson. Rachel. Supervised time transitioning to limited unsupervised visitation. Sale of the marital home, proceeds split, with reductions from Rachel's share for dissipation due to the affair. Decision-making authority, primarily Mark. Child support adjusted accordingly. Each line felt like a slow exhale after months of holding breath. I didn't smile, didn't clench my fists, didn't celebrate. Rachel broke first. She sank into her chair, tears streaking down her face, mascara smearing like ink bleeding on wet paper. Her attorney put a hand on her shoulder, but she pushed it away, shaking her head like she couldn't understand the math of consequences. She whispered, "This can't be real," but it was, because evidence is real, consistency is real, truth is real. Her arrogance had met a system that didn't care about her narrative, only her actions. As the judge dismissed us, I stood, buttoned my jacket, and nodded respectfully. My attorney patted my shoulder. "You earned this," he said quietly. But that wasn't what I felt. Walking out of the courtroom, papers in hand, I didn't feel victory. I felt the weight of everything I'd gained and everything I'd lost. The family I tried to hold together was gone. The version of Rachel I married was gone. The life I built was split into chapters one never asked for. But my kids, they were safe. They were home. And that mattered more than any marriage, any house, any past. As I stepped into the hallway, I heard Rachel sob behind me. For a moment I paused. Not out of regret, out of recognition. This wasn't revenge. It was protection. And protection always costs something. I didn't walk away from that courtroom a winner. I walked out a father with responsibility sharpened into purpose. And rebuilding wasn't dramatic. It was daily, steady, and real. Life didn't snap back into place after the ruling. It didn't get easier overnight. Stability isn't a moment. It's a grind. A slow, deliberate stacking of good days until the bad ones stop holding power. The first thing I did was make the rental into a home. Nothing fancy, just structure. Beds that didn't wobble. A kitchen table where the kids could do homework. Routines that didn't break under pressure. Breakfast at 7. School drop-off at 7:45. Dinner at 6. Lights out by 8:30. Small things that build big security. The kids adjusted faster than I expected. Kids do that, they follow the steadier parent. Aiden started smiling again. Emma slept through the night. Olivia stopped asking when mom would be home. Rachel and I had to rebuild something too. Not a relationship, but a functioning co-parenting boundary. Civil, not warm. Respectful, not close. She didn't fight the ruling after the first few weeks. Reality settled on her shoulders with a weight she couldn't talk her way out of. I dropped the kids off at her sister's apartment. A cramped place with thin walls and air that always smelled like burnt coffee. Rachel would meet us at the door, wearing sweatshirts instead of designer blouses, driving her old Honda instead of the SUV she insisted on when we were married. Her eyes looked different, deflated but clearer. She'd say, "Hi," and I'd nod. No bitterness. No victory lap. Just two people dealing with the aftermath of choices they both had a part in, even if mine didn't include betrayal. I never rubbed it in. Not once. I didn't need to. Her life spoke for itself. She lived on her sister's couch. She shared a bathroom with 3 adults. She worked part-time at a boutique, trying to rebuild finances she'd assumed she'd never have to manage alone. Meanwhile, I worked normal hours for the first time in a decade. Not grinding myself into dust. Not trying to buy peace with overtime. Just being present. Somewhere in the middle of that rebuilding, I met Amanda. Not through an app. Not through a setup. Not searching. Just life being life. She was a pediatrician at the clinic the kids went to. Sharp. Steady. No drama. The kind of woman who didn't need attention to feel whole. The kind who didn't treat my reliability like a resource to extract. She didn't replace anything. She added to it. Amanda treated my kids with patience and respect, not performative affection. The kids warmed to her slowly, naturally. No forcing. No blending overnight. Just shared moments that built into something real. Even then, I kept my guard clean. No rushing. No dreaming out loud. Just solid, grounded steps. Co-parenting with Rachel settled into a rhythm. Text updates, schedules, exchanges handled without hostility. She never apologized for what she did, and I stopped waiting for one. Some closures come from acceptance, not words. Every now and then, when I drop the kids off, I see her watching me with a look I can't fully name. No regret, not envy. Something closer to understanding, too late but real. She once said, quietly, "You did everything you said you'd do," and I just nodded, because I had. I didn't win by being louder. I didn't win by being cruel. I didn't win because I deserved to. I won because I proved what mattered. Day after day, action by action, truth over noise. She once dared me to divorce her, convinced she was untouchable. But power isn't what you feel. Power is what you prove. And in the end, the court didn't choose her story, it chose the evidence. Now, I live a life I didn't choose but built anyway. A life steadier than the one that fell apart. A life where my kids sleep safe, laugh often, and know exactly who shows up for them. Some victories hurt, but losing would have hurt more.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.